Another village in Bosnia was in ruins. This time, Muslims from Srebrenica had launched a raid against the Serbs.
Ubiju po jednog, dvojicu, trojicu, evo, do sela nisu dolazili, ali su selo sada popalili, kao vidite tu.
Nastupio je trenutak u kome se apsolutno nije moglo očekivati da sve to bude pod nekakvom razumnom kontrolom.
The Serbs decided to seize Srebrenica. This decision would force the Americans to bring peace to Bosnia. But only after the people here had been sacrificed. Srebrenica was a refuge for tens of thousands of Muslims fleeing the Serbs. For 3 years, they'd been surrounded.
Ovaj narod je napačen i on želi slobodu. Želi da se vrati na svoja ognjišta. Želi da živi normalnim životom kako i svi ostali narodi i narodnosti živi.
Nasir Orić za grupom oficira upravo zbog pripreme naroda na takav egzodus, odnosno na operaciju koja se pripremala na Srebrenicu, bio je od strane Generalštaba pozvan za instrukcije.
The order was a trick. Once out, Srebrenica's commanders were forbidden to return. The enclave was no longer the top priority for the Bosnian government.
Mnoga primirja, mnogi politički ustupci naših državnih organa bili uslovljeni da se spasi Srebrenica i žep.
Srebrenica was doomed. The Bosnian government had realized that nobody in the West, not even their most ardent supporter, would lift a finger to save it.
Already in June, the fate of Srebrenica seemed pretty gloomy. We already then were considering that some kind of swap for at least the smaller of the eastern enclaves for more territory in central Bosnia might be one of the things that would be wise.
In early July, the Serbs attacked. Deprived of its commanders, Srebrenica could not resist the Serb advance.
Naša zadnja poruka je bila da mi više nemamo vremena za javljanje novo. Da je Srebrenica pala i da narod ide u problem.
To escape the Serb soldiers, thousands of Muslims in Srebrenica fled into the forest.
Prvi prijelaz front linije bio je hod kroz minsko polje. Išli smo u koloni jedan po jedan. Ona je ispred mene. Gdje stane, tu moram stati ja. Ako neću da nagazim na minu.
They set out on a 40-mile walk through a forest ringed by Serb patrols.
Zamislite 15.000 ljudi kad se postroji jedan iza drugog, jedan po jedan.
Those Muslims who couldn't face the trek clung to the UN for protection. "25,000 Muslims now overwhelm the UN base in Srebrenica. But the handful of UN troops there were shoved aside by the Bosnian Serb army and its commander, General Mladić.
Koliko ti je godina? Kako ti ime? Molim vas, budite veoma strpljivi. Samo malo. Svi koji žele da ostanu, mogu da ostanu. Svi koji žele da napuste ovu teritoriju također mogu. Obezbedili smo dovoljno.
The leader of the Serbs in Bosnia also put on a performance for the cameras.
Our army is very, very responsible. People, civilians, as well as UN personnel are completely safe and secure.
The Serbs laid on coaches for the civilians, but when they reached Muslim territory, only women and children emerged. The men of Srebrenica had disappeared.
Bilo je stvarno strašno dočekati tu noć. Kupe odozdo ljude koji spavaju, odvode i tamo tišina je malo, zatim se čuje lovež psa, laju, zatim opet tišina, čuju se kasnije meci, pobiju i vraćaju se na drugu stranu, uzimaju opet.
There was no refuge. In this field alone, some 2,000 of Srebrenica's men are buried. The killing went on for days.
U ceranskim lukama smo naišli, znači, na leševe, nisu bili pokopani. Od 130, možda do 200 ljudi je bilo strijeljano tu. Dio je, ne znam, bili smo prvo pokušali da vidimo da li možemo nekog poznati, međutim, bio je smrad veliki, ne znam, nije se moglo tu postupiti.
The Muslims walking through the forest were easy prey for the Serbs.
Sam život u Srebrenici je bio pakao. Ali onaj put, ono što se desilo uz put, to je 9. krug pakla.
Ajte, momci, živite, momci!
Već nas bilo opkolili tu komplet. Počeli su granatirati. Počeli su zoljama tučile narod. I onda narod nije imao drugog izbora nego i krenuo tamo da se predaje.
Ste mnogo uprosili? Kako se neš uprosti? Ajde, boj, ne boj. Šta se bojiš? Ajde, ajde. Ajde, slobodno.
Ljudi bi počeli da vrište, da postanu agresivni. Ukoliko bi malo oružje, obavezno bi ga upotrijebili.
Tada su počela masovna samoubistva.
Gledao sam 3 druga, 3 dobra druga, kako se zagrlili i jedan od njih izvlači bombu i ubija se 3.
Two years earlier, a French general had made a pledge to the people of Srebrenica.
You are now under the protection of the UN forces.
Now the new French president called on the UN to salvage its honor.
J'ai proposé à nos principaux partenaires, à ceux qui sont les plus attachés à ces règles du droit international, du droit des gens à vivre, à être respectés, de réagir ensemble, de façon concertée, de façon forte et limitée, en clair, de reprendre l'enclave de Srebrenica.
No one believes that either the French or other UN forces in Bosnia were either of a number or with the military equipment required, nor did they have a mandate to carry out what would be an act of war.
Britain's stance cracked open the alliance that had led the UN in Bosnia. President Chirac looked for support elsewhere.
The President heard President Chirac out with great interest, demurred on the, as I recall, on the military wisdom of it or feasibility of it, and then suggested the alternative.
Clinton told the French president he was prepared to use force, but only to create a stable balance of power in Bosnia. So the president's men mapped out a plan. It required transfers of population that earlier they might have condemned as ethnic cleansing. The isolated Muslim enclaves near the border with Serbia would go to the Serbs, but on the other side of the country, a large stretch of Serb lands would go to the Muslims.
And that meant that rather than draw the lines in a kind of a higgledy-piggledy way that might make sense in terms of a detailed negotiation and where the current populations are, to do what we could to have a territory that was as simplified as possible.
The key to the Clinton plan was to bolster Bosnia's ally, Croatia. Croatia had lost a quarter of its territory to rebel Serbs. For 4 years, Croatia's president had been planning to seize it back.
Htjeli smo pokazati i svijetu da zaista raspolažemo sa vojnom snagom, prema tome htjeli smo i Srbima dati znati da je vrijeme da pristanu na mirno rješenje.
Croatia, encouraged by the United States, had built itself an army to crush the rebel Serbs. All they needed was the green light.
We did not think that that kind of an attack could do anything other than create a lot of refugees and cause a humanitarian problem. On the other hand, it always had the prospect of simplifying matters.
We knew a few days before the operation that it was in fact going to occur. I went down to meet with President Tudjman to deliver a démarche.
We are concerned by indication that you are preparing for an offensive in sectors south and north. Znači, imali su tu im služba nije za taj.
We made clear to Tudjman that we did not favor military action.
Nakon ovakvog ozbiljnog upozorenja, koje se razumije se da sam ja najozbiljnije razmotrio, nisam odustao, jer sam bio uvjeren da mi možemo postići pobjedu.
Tudjman had read the signals well. 3 days later, his army began shelling the rebel Serbs' capital, Knin. The Croats had a huge advantage in men and armor. They rolled in with ease. The Serb soldiers had already fled. Once again, a centuries-old community was uprooted. This time, more than 100,000 Serbs from Croatia. They had stuck by a regime based on ethnic cleansing. Now they paid the price.
Čini se jednostavno da je velik broj ljudi odraslog srpskog pučanstva bio uključen u te srpske paravojne snage, a drugi dio pučanstva da je bio obmanut da dolaze ustaše, fašisti i da im nema drugo nego da bježe.
To make sure the Serbs never returned, Tudjman's army set their villages alight. They murdered hundreds of old people who'd hung stubbornly on.
Mislio sam da će 60-70% Srba ostati, da će shvatiti da je to demokratska Hrvatska koja im jamči građanska i etnička prava. Prema tome, sami su Srbi odgovorni za takvu sudbinu kao što su je doživjeli.
President Tudjman had achieved an ethnically pure Croatia.
Zastava ovdje znači dovršenje dijela uspostave slobodne i nezavisne Hrvatske.
Bosnia's Muslims had joined their Croat ally in the attack. After 4 years of defeats, the president of Bosnia savored his first big victory.
Bio je vreo dan, usputno moj rođendan je, tamo me dočekao naravno general Dudaković, jedan slavni general, ovdje veoma popularan.
Došli ste u našu državu. Koliko imaš, bola?
Ima sad najviše od korpusa, svi. Sad si najbolji.
Ja sam rekao, nek ti je sretna država Bosna i Hercegovina, a kolika je, jesmo li je proširili malo? Jer da se ona se u stvari širi.
Dragi vojnici, pozdrav domovini! Pozdrav!
Bilo je jako mnogo naroda tamo koji je bio oduševljen tek. U stvari, osjećalo se svugdje, se osjećalo dah slobode na tim krajevima.
The celebration didn't last long. Were killed. The ballistics experts confirmed that the shell came from Bosnian Serb territory.
2800 millième.
It was just what the Americans were waiting for.
Finally, the decks were cleared for a real military response, not some piece of garbage.
A real bombing campaign, not a pinprick, not just a campaign, not just a bomb or two, not just a day or two, but as much as it took.
I must say that I enjoyed it. I must say that. Because those who killed so many defenseless people, those who aimed baby hospitals, those who aimed children while playing, could finally feel what it means to be targeted, to be defenseless. And they deserved it.
The bombing had hurt the Bosnian Serbs in more ways than one. That morning, when they were at their most vulnerable, they'd been summoned to a secret meeting in the capital of Serbia.
Mi smo znali da ćemo mi biti bombardovani. Čak i da smo ispunili, mi bismo morali biti bombardovani.
The call came from their paymasters, the president of Serbia and the president of Montenegro.
Oni su se stvarno bojali. Mislim da su tad bili svjesni veličine svih grešaka koje su napravili i svjesni činjenice da može da se upropasti sve, da jednostavno nestane Republike Srpske.
The president of Serbia had unleashed Bosnia's Serbs to fight his war. But for 2 years they'd blocked any peace that would have secured his gains. He had to bring them to heel.
I mi smo znali da oni ne mogu da nas dugo prate, da nas dugo slijede, ali ni mi nismo imali drugog izbora. Mi smo morali da se borimo do posljednjega.
I sada je najbitnije da rat što pre stane, a ne da se preciziraju detalji svih mogućih rješenja, jer o detaljima se može beskrajno razgovarati.
Milosevic now demanded that the Bosnian Serbs sign an agreement granting him full power to negotiate a peace.
Mi smo spremni da potpuno zablokiramo sve moguće veze, sve ono što smo znali da eventualno ide kao neka vrsta čak i humanitarne pomoći, da smo spremni da se potpuno odreknemo rukovodstva Republike Srpske.
Bilo je potrebno da mi nastupamo kao Republika Srpska i da štitimo svoje interese.
Njima je bilo veoma teško da potpišu takav jedan sporazum, jer on u suštini znači političko samoubistvo.
There was one man powerful enough to save Karadzic.
Mi smo zamolili patrijarha da tu bude kao dokaz neke savjesti i kao moguće alibi za rukovodstvo Republike Srpske da prihvate naš predlog.
Razlika je neminovno da bude među ljudima, ali one da ne budu, kažem, takve da se izgubi iz vida opšti interes.
The Bosnian Serb leaders surrendered.
we consider President Milosevic's announcement yesterday that he can now negotiate for the Bosnian Serbs something of a procedural breakthrough.
In fact, we knew that we had entered the realm of a serious negotiation for the first time.
As American aircraft pounded the Bosnian Serbs, the American Assistant Secretary of State shuffled round the warring capitals.
President Clinton has set us here today on a mission of peace in a moment of war.
Holbrooke's goal was to persuade the warring presidents to come to a peace conference. To the Serbs, he offered a form of recognition of their mini-state in Bosnia, Republika Srpska.
There's one Bosnia. It's got two parts. Everyone agreed it would have two parts. Sarajevo's concession was to let one part be called Republika Srpska.
We see you on Sunday.
In return, he promised the Bosnian Muslims that U.S. troops would enforce a peace deal. American shuttle diplomacy was backed by American bombing. NATO planes destroyed the Bosnian Serb communications network. They couldn't even make telephone calls. President Milosevic had to do something. He met Holbrooke in Belgrade.
Milosevic says to us, we've got to stop the bombing.
He was challenging Holbrooke's manhood by saying, you're in charge of that country, Ambassador Holbrooke. Can't you, make the bombing stop? Can't you do it?
Holbrooke said that first the shelling of Sarajevo must stop.
The airport has to be open.
Milosevic told him he should talk to the men responsible.
Predsjednik Milošević I ja smo bili u razgovoru sa američkom stranom I obavijestili smo ih da ukoliko žele mogu da se sretnu sa Karadžićem I Mladićem.
Holbrooke looked over and said, well, where are they? He said, they're in a villa about 200 meters away.
Milosevic decided to put Holbrooke on the spot. The Americans had pointedly refused to meet Karadzic and Mladic, who'd been charged with war crimes.
That's one of the few times in this whole negotiating process where I thought Dick Holbrooke was shook.
President Milosevic has made some suggestions, and we're going to take a quick break to caucus among ourselves.
The Americans decided to eat their words. They would meet the Bosnian Serbs.
So we said to Milosevic, wait a minute, we want to set down some ground rules. Number one, no historical lectures, no bullshit.
When the Bosnian Serbs arrived, the Americans told them they must withdraw their heavy weapons from the Sarajevo hills.
Mi nismo mogli da prihvatimo u cijelosti taj ultimatum u tom trenutku jer bi smo izgubili Sarajevo I oko 150.000 naših Srba bi bilo izloženo pokolju, izloženo divljem nastupu muslimanskih vojnika.
To je jedna besmislica. Zamislite, nije završen rat, a da mi odmičemo naše teško oružje kojim branimo narod.
Mladic is getting angrier and angrier, and finally he erupts in another one of his statements about the Serb people, the Serb nation.
Samo im je srpski narod toliko veći trn u oku koliko ovo duže traje, jer je ovo za njih katastrofa, da su sila number one I da trebaju da pregaze svet kao da uzmu četku pa ga prefarbaju u boju koja njima odgovara, a nisu još to raščistili sa nekim malim srpskim narodom.
Now Holbrooke put Milosevic to the test.
I said, Mr. President, you told us we were here to be serious. If we're not serious, we have to go.
They walked out.
Hey, why don't we go outside?
Yeah. Milosevic reminded Mladic that if they stayed out, NATO would destroy his army.
Ja se bojim da je general Ratko Mladić, koga inače cijenim kao oficira I kao čovjeka, nažalost nakon 3,5 godine rata potpuno izgubio kontakt sa realnošću.
The Americans were called back in.
I kada smo dobili garancije da I muslimani moraju da povuku teško oružje I kada smo dobili garancije da muslimani ne smiju da nas napadnu I tada smo postigli neku saglasnost.
The Serbs withdrew the heavy weapons that had crippled Bosnia's capital. The Americans called off their airstrikes. All the Americans needed to start their peace conference was a ceasefire in the rest of Bosnia. The Muslims and their Croat ally scrambled to grab territory while they still could.
Zapravo, Srbi su još uvijek imali više od 49% u svojim rukama. Jasno je da, kako gospodin Izetbegović, tako i ja, da smo smatrali da taj poraz koji su Srbi doživjeli treba iskoristiti.
In the west of Bosnia, Croat artillery and Muslim infantry sliced through Serb lines. The conquering armies drove a new wave of Serb refugees into Serbia and Montenegro.
Prije svega Ameriku animirali sa činjenicom da bi taj veliki egzodus naroda radikalizovao političku atmosferu i to više ne bi zavisilo od odluke bilo kojeg rukovodstva, nego bi objektivno događaji tekli prema tome da se mora ući u rat.
Holbrooke took the warning seriously, but now that the Muslims had the bit between their teeth, it would be difficult to persuade them to stop. To put his case, he chose a public display of American friendship for Bosnia, the swearing in of a new ambassador.
And I will faithfully and well discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
After the swearing in, I asked if General Don Carrick and I could see President Izetbegović alone.
We were at that time in the negotiations that if we did not get a ceasefire, that we might not have this moment again for some time.
To persuade Bosnia's president to stop his army, the intelligence officer painted a grim picture.
We were concerned that the Serbs were now reinforcing their area from Sarajevo and others where weapons had been withdrawn.
I said, Mr. President, they're going to be able to punch holes in your lines because they're too thin.
Vojne akcije su s naše strane išle kod nas jako dobro. Nama vojnici su procjenjivali da ne bi trebalo zaustaviti vojnu akciju.
I said, well, you are shooting craps with the destiny of your country.
The Bosnian president returned to his office to consult his generals. Was it possible the Americans were deceiving him?
Ja sam rekao da mi imamo snage da idemo dalje i da ne treba prihvatiti primirje.
Jer mi smo u tom trenutku imali i snage i sredstva za realizaciju tih zadataka koji smo već sebi unaprijed postavili.
But President Izetbegović had another worry, his Croat ally. A week earlier, the Americans had told President Tudjman to ease off.
Tudjman was very pleased to comply because he didn't want to over-strengthen the Muslims anyway.
Molim, to više nisu bila izravno hrvatska područja, mi bismo u svakom slučaju imali daljnjih gubitaka.
Mi smo znali šta to znači. U slučaju da nastavimo rat, mi bi ga morali voditi sami. Bez Hrvata i sa osudom svijeta. Takav rat nije imao nikakvih šansi za Bosance.
But Izetbegović told the Americans he would need to sell the ceasefire to his people.
He said, okay, we want the water, the electricity and the gas turned on.
Istina, htjeli smo da dobijemo na vremenu još. Ja sam prihvatio prekid vatre u roku od 5 dana pod uvjetom da se otvori Sarajevo.
Sio. Rodilo nam, brate. Evo ga dobro pravo.
The longest siege in modern history was over.
I'm pleased to announce that the parties in Bosnia have agreed to a ceasefire to terminate all hostile military activities.
The president's men rushed to turn the ceasefire into a peace treaty. They would apply all America's diplomatic muscle. They chose an unlikely venue.
Welcome to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, one of the largest and most diverse United States Air Force installations.
With his re-election looming, President Clinton gambled that cooped up in the base, the three Balkan presidents would hammer out a deal. He gave his men 17 days to twist their arms.
Are you optimistic about the talks?
I am. If I am not, I wouldn't be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Americans' hope for peace depended on the man they once called a war criminal.
How confident are you the talks will succeed, sir? Come over here. How confident are you the talks will succeed?
Well, I'm optimist. I believe the talks will succeed. We attach the great importance to peace initiative of the United States.
On behalf of President Clinton, I welcome you to the start of these historic peace talks. If we fail, the war will resume, and future generations will surely hold us accountable. And then I walked around to the other side of the table where they had been carefully placed, and I sort of pushed them together and urged them to shake hands, which they did.
Izetbegovic knew these talks would ratify the division of his country. He'd already agreed to share half of Bosnia with his dangerous allies, the Croats. The rest would go to the Serbs.
Moram reći da su prve karte prvih dana dolazile potpuno neprihvatljive i ja sam komentirao u jednom momentu da su Srbi po svojoj prilici prespavali zadnjih pola godine dana.
From the start, Izetbegovic told his prime minister to conduct the talks.
We cannot survive the dead. We cannot survive the 17,000 children dead in Bosnia. But we can get some justice here, and that justice means a fully functional Bosnian state. Integrity, sovereignty, justice, democracy. Thank you. Okay.
The constitution of a new Bosnian state was to be drafted here. Powers were stripped from the central government and given to the Muslim Croat Federation and the Serb Republic. No one wanted these ceasefire lines as permanent boundaries, but attempt after attempt to change them led to deadlock.
I had always had in my mind a 17-day conference, and here we were on day 16, and we were nowhere further than we've been on day 11. It was a very cold and biting day, but I said to Milosevic, let's walk. And Chris Hill and Milosevic and I took off, accompanied by security guards, and we walked out to the edge of the base and around the fence.
And we ended up at the officers' club at about 11:45.
Holbrook's assistant then invited the Bosnian Prime Minister to the officers' club.
Maybe we could get them together and they could at least talk like, human beings.
I went over to say hello to Silajdic, and I told him that Milosevic wanted to talk about Gorazda.
And he wanted to come to my table.
He said no.
The fact that he comes to my table gives him, in a way, a psychological advantage. That he is doing something, that he is making a concession, and so on. So I said, no, I'll go to his table. These are the small Balkan ways.
They began to speak in Serbo-Croatian. And Milosevic was saying to Harris, what do you want?
What he asked for was security for Gorazda, the one remaining Muslim enclave in eastern Bosnia.
We wouldn't leave it as an enclave there. We had to connect it territorially with the rest of Bosnia.
Kriza u Bosni i Hercegovini može se rešiti samo političkim putem. Ne može se rešiti vojnim sredstvima.
And he said, enough is enough, I'll connect it. I will do that. You can get a road under the international control from Gorazde to the territory.
It was agreed that NATO would build the Gorazde-Sarajevo road. So now Milosevic had to negotiate with the Americans just how much Serb land he'd give up for it.
So that night I brought President Milosevic into our little map room where we had these high-tech video games used to make more precise bombing. We had the entire aerial photograph of the entire country, and you could fly with a joystick over any part of the country, stop, look straight down, look sideways, go up, go down.
Prvo mi je stalno na pameti kad je Holbrook pogledao na ekranu Bosnu. Vidim li ja to ovdje? Nema ništa, ovdje su samo planine, nema kuće, nema sela. Mi kažemo, tačno nema, ali takva je Bosna i on se uhvatio za glavu.
They had to find a corridor through the mountains that was wide enough to be made defensible for the new road to Goražde.
And we began to, quote, fly President Milosevic up and down a road that ran through the mountains from Goražde to Sarajevo, which if upgraded, might do the trick. We did this till about 2 in the morning while a great amount of alcohol was consumed. So finally, Milosevic stuck out his hand to me and said, "Okay, this is it."
And he drank a toast. Richard Charles Albert Holbrook, we have found our road.
Louisville 27, Tulane 14.
The Americans were determined to wrap it up by their Thanksgiving holiday, now only a week away. But the Muslims were in no mood to make any compromise.
I mislili su da se to da prevazići nekakvim sastancima, kao da se radilo o nekim ličnim sukobima. Međutim, između nas su stajale praktički ogromna groblja i hrpe leševa.
The Bosnians had to be persuaded to play ball.
One method of persuasion we wanted to use on the Bosnians was 2 big charts, sometimes they're called storyboards, which described the number of things that they were achieving.
What they had achieved was more territory. The Muslim-Croat Federation had been promised 51% of Bosnia, to the Serbs 49%. Christopher's chart showed that the Goražde corridor took them well over their 51%.
We showed that to Izetbegovic as part of the reason to urge him to conclude this deal. Don't let this deal get away.
On the top of one of the panels, big letters, the Federation gains 58% of the territory. And when he left, that panel was left in President Izetbegovic's room, between the couch and the night case, the lamp place and so on. So the only thing that you could actually see, if you sit in the room, was the Federation has 58%. And then Milosevic came to visit President Izetbegovic, and what he saw was that.
Milosevic didn't see the humor of it. He strode over to the US delegation.
He erupted. He said, I didn't know that I'd given up this much territory.
I said, I'm very sorry. He said, you know, only 5149 can work, and that is our commitment.
Holbrook had no choice. He gave the two sides until midnight the next day to agree to a 51-49 map. But the Muslims refused to give up a single parcel of land until they'd been satisfied on their key demand. From the start of the talks, their delegation had insisted the Serbs surrender all the districts of Sarajevo they controlled.
And the Serbian delegation was very unhappy about that because they hoped to divide Sarajevo, what they call Serbian Sarajevo, and the rest of Sarajevo.
The top Bosnian Serbs charged with war crimes were barred from the talks, but one representative was allowed to put their case.
Srbi su samo zahtijevali lokalnu svoju vlast, znači u opštinama u kojima su oni većina, i tražili su svoju policiju.
The plan that could not work, obviously. We wouldn't agree to that.
Krajišnik had gone up to the maps and slamming them with his fist had said, I live here. He's pointing to a farm he has in Ilija. And I'm never going to give this up. And 6 hours later, they had practically restarted the war.
Milosevic told Holbrook he would settle this himself, He made a startling offer to the Muslims' negotiator.
He said, "You deserve Sarajevo because you fought for it, and those cowards killed you from the hills," meaning the Bosnian Serbs.
Milosevic gave it to him. I was amazed.
It soon became clear the Serb president required something in return.
Središte došlo I saopštio da Milošević insistira na predaji grada Brčkov.
The town of Brčko was the spot where the Serb Republic could be severed in two. It would give the Muslims a way to stop fresh Serb aggression. President Izetbegović told the Prime Minister that on this he had to be tough.
Ja sam rekao Silajđiću da koliko da je ovdje narod očekivao da će doći do nekakvog mira, mislim da bi puno teže primio vijest o tome da je plaćena tako visoka cijena kao što je Brčko.
The Prime Minister returned to put Izetbegović's counter-demand for Brčko.
President Milosevic would not agree. He said, "We must solve that thing now. I must have 15 to 20 kilometer corridor."
Milosevic won this one, and Silajđić still had to find a way to reduce the Muslim-Croat share to 51%. In the small hours of the morning, he had an idea. He offered to return a huge chunk of territory that Muslim-Croat forces had taken from the Serbs just before the conference.
And they shook hands and they said, okay, we've got an agreement.
So we actually brought in a bottle of wine that the secretary had brought with him, and he said, let's celebrate.
Where every previous attempt had failed, the Americans had succeeded. They'd ended the war in Bosnia. But in their excitement, they forgot the Croat delegation.
Državni tajnik Christopher je predložio da će on doći oko 1 sat nakon konačnih razgovora sa Miloševićem. On nije došao do 1, mi smo ga čekali do negdje 2 sata, oko 2:30 smo išli spavati.
I just felt that something was very wrong here. And I leaned over to Chris Hill and said,
"Better get Tudjman in here." And I said, "Dick, it's 4:15. How about I'll get Mate Granić?"
Kazao je da bi državni tajnik želio sa mnom razgovarati hitno.
Granić arrived sometime at 4:15 or 4:20 in the morning, dressed impeccably.
I could see him sort of looking to the side because he could see something that looked like a map.
I oni su me nudili šampanjcem. Ja sam tražio vode prije nego što vidim prijedloge njihove konačne mapa.
And we produced the map. And Mate Granić, mild-mannered physician, turns into a rhinoceros.
Because the map actually cut into what mainly Croat forces took from Serbs in Western Bosnia.
I oni su mi predložili potpuno neprihvatljiv prijedlog.
He jumps up, hits the map with his hand, says, impossible, impossible, 0.00% chance my president will accept this.
Ja sam to energično odbio i rekao da to nema 0.0 chance za prihvatiti i da je to absolutely unacceptable za nas.
And he turns on Silajđić and he just rips him. He says, you have given away the territory we conquered.
Remember, it was almost 20 days of negotiating. We were all very much exhausted, very little sleep.
In 37 minutes, the peace agreement had collapsed. It was left to President Clinton to try to rescue the conference. He phoned the Croat president and asked him to surrender some of the territory they'd refused to give up the night before.
Ja sam predsjedniku Clintonu rekao, dear president, I already did that. Ja, jer sam ja već odlučio da znači da zbog, molim, ovih nekoliko kilometara brdovitog kamena ne dovedemo u pitanje mir.
But he said, I will do it only if the Bosnians also give up part of the land they claim.
U pola 11 navečer je došao kod mene Christopher, nije skidao kaput, s nogu mi je rekao da hoće naš stav definitivan u roku od sata vremena.
I did lose my calm a little bit with him, and some have said I shouted at him. That may be a little overstatement, but I'm quiet enough so when I raise my voice, it's noticeable.
Odgovor je glasio, procente smo uskladili, a kad je riječ o Brčko ne možemo da.
He asked that Brčko, given to the Serbs the night before, be decided by arbitration.
I told him, that this was the end of the line and I was not going to try to negotiate something else for him.
The United States has already told the Balkan delegations the talks will end in a few hours without a Bosnia peace agreement.
Milosevic and Tudjman now got together. From the beginning of the crisis in Yugoslavia, they had determined the fate of Bosnia. Milosevic suggested the two of them sign without Izetbegovic.
Ja sam ukazao da na to ne mogu pristati.
I predsjednik Tudjman je predložio predsjedniku Miloševiću da prihvati prijedlog predsjednika Izetbegovića o arbitraži.
Milošević je rekao, možda nije mi na taj moj prijedlog.
Holbrooke and his team were starting an exhausted post-mortem on the conference when Milosevic burst in.
Milosevic says, okay, my last offer, the most I can ever do for you, I would agree to put the city of Brčko under international arbitration to be decided in a year.
Sigurno da se sve koncesije koje su učinjene ne mogu uporediti sa ostvarenjem rezultata, to je mir.
This time, before celebrating, they checked with all the parties.
Ja sam prihvatio naravno Kristofera i samo me upitao, ostajete li dalje pri arbitraži za Brčko?
We've got to decide right now. And there was a very, very long pause.
Ja sam rekao, ostajem. On je samo rekao, onda je sve u redu.
And I said to Warren Christopher, let's get out of here.
Dick Holbrooke looked like he was in front of a gas chamber and they just pulled him back. I hope he watches this.
I wonder if we could ask the three presidents to stand up and for us to join them standing and express our appreciation for what they've done in Dayton and our hopes for the future.
Today, 6 months later, the Dayton peace is still holding. Just.